Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Welcome to the Cornhusker Corner with Blake.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
And Brooks.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
And you better bet your bottom dollar that these two brothers know how to handle business.
Here's a hand up to Thunder, who gives it back to Mike Stutz. He's going to throw it. He's got a man out. Yeah! 40.
All right, welcome to the Cornhusker Corner, where there's no place like
this podcast.
As always, we're your host Blake and my brother
Brooks.
So yeah, Purdue game.
Here we are.
That was the thing.
Looking a little more official now.
Yeah, looking a little more official for those of us that tune in to YouTube. You can always catch these live streams, by the way, after the fact. We post them on our channel. It's just search Cornhusker Corner, and you can see our I wouldn't say beautiful faces, but you can see our faces. And but yeah, so we got some new layout, and I think we look a lot more professional than we sound. So now we just have to get our content back up.
Right. Yeah. And we're also a little more active on the Twitter now. You can follow us at @Chusker_corner. We were tweeting quite a bit during the game yesterday. I actually had a lot of fun doing that.
It was a lot of fun.
You can also you can check the Twitter for updates on when we post as well, podcast episodes and live streams. So welcome to the new Cornhusker Corner. Here we are. We had a big game yesterday, and I think regardless of where you fall, whether you're a fan of either team, it was a fun game to watch. I think that's the first thing that just sticks out to me thinking about it. It was a very fun game to watch. So what do you think?
So my initial thoughts were that's a bummer. But, looking at the game as a whole, it wasn't a complete defensive collapse that I thought it was going to be. And you really have to give Aiden O'Connell props. That dude was throwing the ball the only place that he could. And those receivers were running really good routes. And I think I even tweeted something to the effect of out routes and comebacks are really hard to defend, especially in man. And we couldn't go zone because he would have picked apart a zone too. But in a man, those are so hard to defend. And they were executing. And I don't think it was anything like our D was out of place. There was a couple plays here and there, but that happens. But in total, they were just performing. They were executing their plays. Exactly how they wanted to. So that was on the defensive side.
I largely agree with that. There was a couple missed tackles here and there, but geez, you'd think they would key into Charlie Jones on the comeback route after the first 5 times. I mean, that's really what the game felt like. It just felt like they kept going to their transfer portal guy, number 15, Charlie Jones, for the comeback route. Now, I guess that's his specialty. They were talking about how he's not the fastest receiver, but he's good on the top of his routes, and he's good on the comeback of routes. And and he showed it, man. I don't know how many yards he had, but it was pretty good showing from him. Yeah. But Aiden O'Connell, like you said, you can't give enough props to that guy. What is 6-year senior? Feels like I've been watching Aiden O'Connell at Purdue forever. And he just makes the throws. He really does. He just makes the throws. And there was NFL scouts there last night, and they definitely were looking at Aiden O'Connell very closely, because it's always hard to predict dudes in college how they're going to look in the NFL, because you just never know, man. You never know. Because look at Justin Fields. Look at Justin Fields in Chicago, right? Justin Fields has all the tools. I think most people would agree with that. But it really does matter where you get drafted, because largely the NFL talent evaluation is such a crap show. I don't know what you think about it. It's just such a crap show, the NFL talent evaluation. So Aiden O'Connell, we'll see what happens with Aiden O'Connell, but he played a hell of a game last night, and once again looked like an NFL QB against Nebraska. So I think we had a rough first half, and we came out better in the second half. But yeah,
and especially on offense, there were a couple things that they had to fix, and they just didn't. And I know it didn't have any. Just one play that comes to mind is when we drove down the field. It was like 3rd and goal on the 2-yard line. We couldn't punch it in, and they called a play. It was in the 3rd quarter. We called a play, and Casey just missed him. He missed Alante wide open, and
yeah,
it was a difference between seeing a great quarterback and a good quarterback. Because Casey's a good quarterback, but a great quarterback makes that throw. And we didn't lose by 4 points, but maybe that starts to tighten the reins a little bit at that point.
It's weird, man. That mistake where Casey overthrew Alante, that was really one of the first times this year where, man, I mean, it is because he's overthrown Trey a couple of times, and we've pointed that out.
Yeah.
But those are deep balls. You know what I mean? That's. I mean, I know we're in 2022, and the triple option is barely ran anywhere anymore, and people expect the deep ball. That's part of football. But still, it just feels like a crazy play. You're lobbing a piece of rubber in the air, 45 yards to a streaking, 10-2 running fast receiver that's trying to catch the ball while people are tackling him and also trying to catch. It seems like a low percentage play just when you describe it like that. If you described it to a person who's never watched football before, they'd be like, well, that doesn't sound like it's high probability at all. But on this play, I mean, we're in the goal line. It's 3rd and goal, and Whipple draws up a beautiful play. I mean, seriously, it was he had him exactly where he wanted him, and Alante was wide open in the back of the end zone. And I had no idea what happened in the moment. I was like, what? How did he overthrow? I could have hit him, seriously.
You literally could have just pitched it.
Yes. Yes.
It was pretty bad. I mean, again,
but he had an explanation post game. He had an explanation post game, and his explanation was basically there was a miscommunication. Is essentially what it was. He thought he was going to be lobbing it for I don't even know. He literally just had a brain fart. Is seemingly what it kind of sounds like, and he
miscommunication is one thing. If you see the guy running that wide open, you know where you're supposed to throw the ball. It wasn't even like he had to fit it against a defender. There was nobody around him.
You just throw it right at him. He'll settle.
Yeah,
and he'll catch it.
Again, that didn't make or break the game, but I think it would have added a little bit more pressure.
Where we broke open a big play and got all the way into the red zone. That was a trait of Scott Frost teams. That was a trait of those teams that would have all these yards, and they would be in the top 25 of every category when it came to yards. But when it came to scoring, they weren't any good because they were terrible red zone team. And that's kind of what it felt like last night. It kind of felt like we kept getting into the red zone, and it was and I found myself feeling, oh God, are we going to get punch this in? Whereas the game so far this year, you got to hand it to the offense. It's felt like, okay, we're going to score whenever we get into inside the 20-yard line. It feels like an inevitability. But this game, they had a tough time because there was a number of times we walked away with just field goals, and we should have scored.
Yeah. No, there was a moment, at the very beginning of the game when they drove right down the field, and we're like, oh gosh, here we go. We get a pick for a touchback, so we don't even have good field position. We drive down to midfield, and then the drive stalls. If we can, get some points on the board there, who knows what happens? Pucker factor does play. It plays a factor. It does happen. So there were a lot of those kind of things. I think that if we could have taken the lead in the second half, we probably win. I don't think they could regain it at that point. But
we never got over the hump. We
never got over the hump. Yeah. We fought back. I mean, we were down. What was it? 14 and a half, 17 and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know we get the ball, and it's it is what it is. But let's see.
Hey, we have a comment.
Yeah, we have a comment. Wow, first one. At the lowest point in the season, aka Georgia Southern loss, would you have expected this performance against Purdue?
That's a good point, actually. And it's we'll go ahead and feature it. There we go.
Yeah. I don't think so, honestly. And that's credit to Mickey and what he's done.
Yeah, no, seriously. No, we're not sitting here pouting about the performance. No doubt about it. We're not.
No.
It wasn't a bad performance. I didn't come away from the game with a sinking feeling of, oh no, how the heck is the team going to get any better? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what a lot of those other wins felt like. Oh no,
Yeah.
how the heck is this team going to get any better? And this team felt like, okay, we were depleted on the defensive side and the linebacking core specifically. Reimer was out going into the game,
and Heinrich got hurt.
And Heinrich got hurt, I think, in the early third quarter. So it was hard because you got a lot of young guys in there against literally a veteran QB with one of the best play callers in college football. And so I think they played, to be honest, I'll say this. I think they played good enough to give us a chance to win. I do think that. The only way where it's like irrefutable that they didn't is at the end. There you go. It was the last drive. They gave up a number of first. Yeah, they gave up a number of first downs as a defense. I mean, game was, but they could have given our offense another.
I have a counterpoint to that though.
Yeah.
So timeouts. We called 2 timeouts in the third quarter. One of them on that play.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have those going into the fourth, and we didn't have those on that last drive. Timeouts, if you get a stop, you can stop the time. That last drive especially goes a lot different. What was it? They converted a 3rd and 12. If we had called if we had a couple timeouts to call, that time doesn't go that far, and we have another chance at stopping and getting the ball back.
Let me ask you, what do you think about this? It was 3rd down and 11, I think it was. 3rd down and 11. If my memory serves me right. It was the last play before they got the last first down they needed. And Aiden O'Connell, I mean, the philosophy of Bill Bush seems to be balls to the wall and just deal with the consequences of playing hard. And on that last play is a good sort of evidence of that, I thought, where we blitzed the house. I mean, we brought everybody and didn't get to him. That was the inevitability of the play. And if you don't get to him and you bring the house, obviously there's people open downfield.
Yeah.
And they had to have brought 6. I mean, or 7. I mean, so what do you think of that? What do you think of the philosophy of this staff? Instead of playing it conservative on that play, and just generally.
No, and generally, like I think I said this last week, they're playing like our guys versus you. We're playing a lot of man in the secondary, and we're just going good on good. See, like if you beat us, that good on you, but like you're not going to beat us through scheme. You're going to beat us by beating us. And so I do like that kind of philosophy, and in terms of the like play calling, whatever, it's fine. He's bringing pressure when he needs to. And, we didn't get enough pressure. Did we even have a sack?
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
Mathis had him almost like 2 times, man. One of them, he had him fully wrapped up and just didn't get him. Aiden O'Connell, you got to give it to the guy. That's one of the underrated things about him. And I always say this about Tom Brady too. Tom Brady is one of the best things about Tom Brady is how efficient he is with his movement in the pocket. And Aiden O'Connell showed those types of characteristics. His efficiency in his movement in the pocket. He doesn't have to be an athletic freak to get out of some of those things. You just have to step in the exact right place at the exact right time. You know what I mean? And have your footwork down to a science. All those dumb drills you see the Elite 11 doing, where they got the pool noodles and they're running around their quarterback, and their quarterback's having to step to. All that stuff really matters when it's the third and fourth quarter, and you got in Aiden O'Connell's case, blitzes coming at you left and right, because we were blitzing a lot.
No, yeah, and that's one thing that is not like a paper stat that you see. He was doing a very good job of getting the ball off fast, because if you look at like actually like the protection and the line and everything, we were getting decent pressure. Like if he had held on to the ball a little bit longer, we could have had a couple sacks, but he was just so efficient, finding his guy, getting it out. And, again, you got to tip your hat to him, because that's what you got to do. Because our guys, from a like execution standpoint, again, a couple missed tackles, but you look at how they were playing against the offensive line. It wasn't like the offensive line was blowing us off the ball and he had all day to throw. He was just being very, very, very efficient. And that's hard to defend. It just is.
Yeah. So we'll get into some of the better stuff later. We got to talk about the offensive line, man. We got to talk about the offensive line. And the offensive line is something that we've sort of been, you and I, at least, a lot of people talk about it, but you and I feel like we've been not wanting to talk about it for so long, because it's just not a fun thing to talk about. Because you watch our O-line last night, and you watch the tackles specifically, obviously. I mean, they're just getting beat on every play. I mean, watch Trey Palmer's highlights. Watch Trey Palmer's highlights from the game, meaning his 237-yard game and all the highlights he had, where he was the lifeblood of our team. Watch his highlights on every single play, pretty much. Casey Thompson is like about to get completely destroyed as he releases the ball, or right after he releases the ball, he does get destroyed.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is not sustainable.
No. And you can't get all the onus on Casey there, because he just he doesn't have a lot of time. I mean, there's a couple times when he's holding on to the ball too long, but there are ways to offensively scheme around a duct taped offensive line.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, no, there is, and you can roll the QB out of the pocket. We did a little bit of that, not enough, in my opinion. And you have to establish him as a run threat, because guess what? He's not a bad runner. If you call some of those, if you call some of those schemed runs, make them respect it, they're not gonna, be able to blitz 4 or 5 every single play. There's not.
I feel like they're trying to balance the scales of protecting Casey with maybe mixing in some of what you're talking about, because think about it, even on the run plays, this dude is, or even on the pass plays, this dude is getting destroyed. Just getting, do you really want to like take another percentage of plays and make it a possibility for, you know what I mean? Because right now, the way it works is on a pass play, there's a possibility Casey gets completely wrecked and maybe even hurt. And they got to think about that every time they call one, basically. Yeah. And on a run play, when you're handing it off to Anthony Grant, you ain't got to worry about Casey Thompson. But if you take those run plays and you sprinkle in a Casey Thompson here and there, all of a sudden, that's something to think about. He's taking a lot of hits, and I think he's tough, but you really got to think about that, because who else do we have? I know Casey's not played the best, especially this past game, but like, man, I don't know. I think Casey's all right. I think it's offensive line struggles. I really think that's really the focus.
Yeah. I mean, one of his did he have 2 interceptions or 1?
He had 2. He had
2. One of those interceptions, he just threw a bad ball. He had Vokalek wide open with blockers in front of him. That could have gone. I'm not saying it's a touchdown because it was to Vokalek, who, is not a spring chicken. He's more of a, possession kind of guy. But dude, he just floats that over that backer. And again, the backer made a good play, but you have to just float that ball, and he zipped it. If you just float it again, nobody around him, wide open.
Yeah, just
And
tap,
those
just tap square.
just
You don't
tap
have to. You
square.
don't have to hold
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, don't yeah, you don't have to hold it. But yeah, just a couple things like that. That is where Casey needs to look at the tape and go, okay, all right, I need to do better on that. There was one ball where he missed Palmer. He threw it to the outside and he just let him inside. It's another touchdown.
Yeah. And the backer made another really good play on that as well.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a good catch, but also, like you said, he let him back inside, and there was a couple times where Casey threw the outside ball when he should have let him back inside, and then the opposite. So there's just I think it's communication and just getting better with your scheme, getting better with your X's and O's, getting better with your reads. Simply put,
yeah.
I think Casey Thompson has talked about himself as if he's an X and O's guy, and I think he is, and I think he's proved it at times this year, most definitely. I think whenever he does take from the defense, and whenever he does have positive plays, it's because he made the correct read, and he's doing all that. But I mean, you got to be consistent. Consistent.
Yeah. And guess what? There were a lot of plays too, especially on this one drive. Palmer dropped a pass right to him. Washington dropped a pass right to him, and then we have to punt the ball back. And I think at that point we'd either tied it up or we were down by only like 3, or something like that. And we had decent field position, and those both came like around the middle of the field. Like, so you make those plays, and at that point in the game, I think it was the beginning of the fourth quarter, if memory serves, and you got to have those catches because they weren't really even contested catches. They were just drops. So again, not all on Casey.
No,
he played good enough for us to win. I think on offense, where we lost the game was in our run game.
Yeah,
we had no run game. We just didn't.
Yeah, let me go over the stats on the rushing. So we had 122 total rushing yards. 60 of those 122.
$60 of those 122.
What is going on? I'm getting an ad in my ears.
You just stop talking. 60 of those 122.
What is going on? Sorry, go ahead. Keep talking.
Yeah, 60 of those 122 were Palmer.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Explanation time. I had the ESPN app open, or not the ESPN app, the ESPN website open, because I just wanted to look at the game stats, and I had it on the other screen, and I went to it, and an ad started playing in my ears, and I was like, "What's going on?" And so I was like, I couldn't even hear you or anything. Anyway, so the rushing stats. So I muted the tab, and we're good. So the rushing stats. So we had 122 total rushing yards on 23 carries, and Trey had 60 of those on 1 carry.
On 1 carry.
AG had 11 carries for 35 yards, 3.2 average. Ramir Johnson had 1 carry on the what was it called? The draw play.
And he got what, like 12 yards?
Yeah, dude. Let's talk about that. We finally saw Ramir Johnson. And we didn't use him hardly at all. I mean, this was the type of game where it's like, okay, we've tried the bruisers. You know what I mean? We've tried the run over them guys. Let's see if the water bug can get it done. You know what I mean? That's kind of my mindset. That's how I see Ramir. Is like, if he gets an inch of space, it's 20 yards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is because he's fast, he's quick, he makes guys miss.
He's got fresh legs. He hasn't
played.
And
he's got fresh legs. Yeah. So I mean, that is definitely where we lost the game.
Yeah, the rushing, big time.
And we were outscored 10-7 in the fourth quarter, which you can't do.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, they had a score.
But I tell you what, one of the reasons we're in the game, and really the sole reason we're in the game, is Mr. Trey Palmer. Trey Palmer had an insane game. He broke records. I mean, it was the single game record at this school for receiving yards. He had 237 receiving yards off of 7 receptions.
That's crazy.
He had the 60-yard run. So when you add it all, 297 yards of total offensive production from Trey Palmer yesterday.
And I think I don't know if I saw this somewhere or I was just imagining it. Is that a Big Ten record? For all-purpose yards?
No. He is leading the Big Ten and the country right now in yards so far on the season as a receiver. That's what you're thinking of.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. He has 797 yards so far on the season. We're only halfway through the season, and the dude's almost got 1,000 yards.
And let me tell you what, it is so great to have somebody that had so much hype, because as Husker fans, everybody in the offseason has all the hype in the world. Oh, this guy. Oh, this guy. Oh, this guy. Every single offseason. He gets on the field. Sometimes they perform okay, but not up to expectations, and sometimes they're busts. It is so refreshing to see a guy that had that much hype perform on the field. We haven't had that in a while. He's a game breaker. He's a dude that can, take over. And unfortunately,
the last guy I can think of that was like that, maybe Wandale.
Yeah,
I mean, Wandale never had a game like that, but like Wandale was everywhere. I mean, Wandale was the offense when he was here.
The closest game that Wandale had to that was probably Illinois in 2019. And that was his first like real big coming out party, basically. And he was more consistent, like Palmer he's good. He's good. And he's fun to watch. He's just a smooth operator. He runs decent routes. He's just fast.
Very
fast. He doesn't look fast, but then he's like running past people. He's just so smooth,
So smooth. And the Chiefs had a bunch of scouts there. The NFL had a bunch of scouts there. So Trey's gonna be going. Look, Trey would look great in the Chiefs offense. I'm just being honest. Like, this dude's the real deal. And and they Nebraska was using him effectively like Tyreek Hill last night. I mean, getting him in space and letting him work. That's pretty much what the Chiefs did with Tyreek. And Tyreek would have very similar stats. If you would look at his stats, it would be like 6 receptions, 150 yards. You know what I mean? Like, because every time he touches the ball and gets in space, it's a game-breaking play. And so hats off to Whipple for finding ways to get him in space. And you look at Whipple's history. I mean, look, Jordan Addison was the Biletnikoff winner last year, and he had like 1,700 yards of receiving. And it was because Whipple and his system allows for players like that to get in space. And there we go. We saw it. It was very fun to watch. Trey made that game tolerable to watch, because every time I wanted to check out, it felt like Trey Palmer just came to the rescue and was like, okay, we're still in this.
Yeah, I know. And it's unfortunate because you have all those stats and you could kind of see it, in his like kind of demeanor after the game. Like, he was happy to have it, but at the end of the day, we didn't win. So
I mean, it was a good little showing for window shoppers of coaches, where it's like look at Mickey. Mickey came here 7-8 months ago, and who did he bring with him immediately? Trey Palmer. Yeah, you know what I mean. And now Mickey is leading the team as the head coach. They're looking way better, and his receiver who came here with him is the game-breaking guy. Yeah, and it's not like we're manufacturing that. Those plays had to be made. You know what I mean? It wasn't like anybody could have gotten into space like Trey Palmer. That's the unspoken thing about receivers that I almost never understood, because I was always a line guy. The fact that they're open, you know what I mean, makes them good. You know what I mean? Like not everybody can get open. You know what I mean? Like that's one thing I've come to understand as I watch. But that's true. The one of the keys to any wide receivers coach is the wide receivers coach job is to teach the wide receiver how to get open, basically. You know what I mean? Yeah. And catch the ball is definitely the main part of it. But Trey gets open, and he's fast enough to get open, and he's got NFL speed. So I don't expect Trey to be back next year, but I'm excited to watch for what he does for the rest of the year, man.
Yeah, and let's talk about the most frustrating part of this game. The most frustrating part. Another Big Ten back had a career day against our defense for the 18th billionth time. I mean, and a backup guy. Okay, this guy didn't even have a lot of experiences. He only had maybe 300 yards on the entire season or something like that coming into this game, and then he had a career day. That was frustrating. That was
and you know what? I watched a couple of their games leading up to this, and I knew those dudes could run. I mean, here's the thing: people say walk on. You know what I mean? People say walk on, and they're like, oh, walk on.
Yeah,
Jacques Yant is a walk on. You know what I mean? There's been lots of really good walk ons. Walk on doesn't mean much. If a coach is saying, I trust you enough to stand next to my quarterback, to read defenses, to make blocks, and to carry the rock, it means you're good, okay? Especially if Jeff Brom's telling you that he trusts you for that. So these dudes could run. They had quick legs. They had the I saw a number of times where we would have them wrapped up, and they just had like the type of running ability where they would just pull their legs out. You know what I mean? They would just they would just completely pull their legs out of the wrap. And it was also, the other thing is they were sealing the edge like crazy. They put on a clinic on the edges. It wasn't entirely their walk-on running backs. I want to give those dudes credit, but I mean, we were getting blocked. I mean, we were getting, especially on the edge. In between the tackles, we weren't terrible, but on the edge, we were getting clinicked all day.
Yeah, well, especially in the first half, they were able to do that a lot less in the second. We kind of figured out a little bit in the second half on the edge, at least. And you know, it's just frustrating because our rough defense has been good the past couple of weeks. You know, and coming in, I think we even said last week on our preview, if we can stop the run, make them one-dimensional, we win the game. And that was what kept a couple drives alive, was their run game. Put them in good position.
Look, the overall arching thing, that's one of the things I wanted to point out. I'm glad you mentioned that, because they had 101 plays. We had like 52. They had 42 minutes of possession. We had like 17. I mean, that's an insane stat. And it just is indicative of the style of game it was. It literally was, Purdue's going to put together a 9-play drive that's going to burn off 5 minutes, and then Nebraska's going to get the ball and score in 2 or 3 plays.
Yeah.
I mean, and it sort of played out like that. It felt like, and I thought they played hard, and I thought they missed less tackles, and I thought they were more physical than I had seen them before. But it played out like a Scott Frost team playing a Big Ten team,
just
being honest.
1-score loss.
Yep. I mean, and that's not to belittle the efforts that they've made, because I thought Priscilla Joseph actually made a really good comment on Twitter. Mickey's wife, she basically said, "We appreciate y'all's support. We appreciate everybody. As y'all are saying stuff in social media, just remember it does get back to the players, and just remember that nobody trains and prepares for a game to lose."
Yeah.
Nobody does.
No, it wasn't. And it wasn't like we had a complete and total collapse. It wasn't like we were getting run off the field and they just were kicking our ass. That wasn't how that game was. You know, Purdue performed. And that's, and you know what? They deserved to win the game because they executed and we didn't. And that has nothing to do with like the effort. The effort was there. The kids were in the game. They were never even hanging their heads, not even at halftime when we were down by that much. I mean, look at the drive right before half. We were down by, I think we were down by 17. And then we put it back into a 2-score game. So, and that was like what, 3-4 plays.
And that, you know what? The confidence of these coaches and these kids bled through the screen too, to me. Like I felt more confident watching the game, like literally just because of their demeanor and everything. And what I've seen these past couple weeks, you were less confident, admittedly. We were texting during the game, but I never felt like this game was over. And admittedly, a lot of Nebraska fans probably did, because there was a number of moments in this game where they could have, you know, really given in, and they didn't, and so that's something to build. I mean, we lost, but this is still something to build on. You know what I mean? Like that's all you can hope for coming away from a loss is, can we build on this? And if we went into West Lafayette and got murdered, that'd be hard to build on that, right?
And listen, it's not like this was the big test for how the rest of the season's going to go. It really was. If we could pull out a win, that's even better. But to perform how they did, the season is not over. And you look at the schedule, Minnesota looks like a completely different team from the first couple of games they played. They don't look game breaking. Tanner Morgan is like now hurt. Who knows if it's going to last long? It looks like I think a head injury or something. Wisconsin, honestly, we should beat Wisconsin. They got their asses handed to them by Michigan State, a bad Michigan State team. And then Iowa's offense is so anemic, you know, and their defense still is good. It's not as good as we thought it was at the beginning of the season. You know, they have a lot of weaknesses that I think we match up well with.
If we score 2 touchdowns, we'll win.
Yes, exactly.
And I think Trey can get open twice.
Yeah. You know, and the biggest, you know, I think challenges left we have are this next game.
All right. So that begs the question, where does Nebraska go from here? Well, we got 5 games left on the season. As a Nebraska fan, you're kind of still in this weird in-between brackish zone period where you're not quite sure if it's not Mickey. You're not quite sure if it is Mickey. You're not quite sure what the team's going to do from here. And do you focus more on coaching search stuff, or you're still focused on what the team's doing?
I still focus on what the team's doing. This team can still compete. They can still get to a bowl. Hell, minus the Michigan game, we could win the rest of those games. And guess what? Sometimes Michigan comes out on the field. Harbaugh's teams lay an egg. Sometimes. Every once in a while, they just do. Why not against us? You know?
I personally think that that won't be a close game, but we'll see. And
I'm not saying it is. That wasn't my prediction or anything. But anything can happen in college football, right? So, but and I'm still hoping that my final season prediction on wins loss is still right, and it still can be.
What is your 7-5?
It was 8-4.
It still can be. Just went out.
Just went out, baby. But no, this next game is the most important because Illinois looks good. They have a very good run offense. I don't think we match up very well. It's at home. That helps. Coming off a bye week. We looked great coming off a bye week last time. We got lots of time to prepare, heal up. Hopefully some of our linebacking core is back. That would help a ton. But it's important, especially because you go from, okay, I have to win 3 of the next 5 to 4 of the next, to 3 of the next 4 to 3 of the next 3. Like you can't keep
that's
losing.
how it was last year. You can't.
You can't keep doing that. Just for your psyche as a player, okay? Because they want to get to a bowl. And how the West is shaking out, we're down 2 games. We have a lot of division games left. If we win out those games, who's to say that the people above us are gonna win out? You don't. So all you can do as far as this team goes, show up every week and win. Play your hearts out and win. and that's really all you can do. So
the way I look at it is it's just unfortunate because if we had somehow pulled this one away yesterday and then we could have pulled out the Illinois game, it would that really would be the best scenario for the coaching search, because I think you just named Mickey right there. And it's just so much continuity and there's just so much ease. You know what I mean? There's not any more turnover or anything like that. There's going to be if he was named, there would be turnover with his staff. No doubt he would retool it and find different people for certain positions. But still, it's like, even if we beat Illinois at this point, it's going to drag on. That's the way I look at it. It's like, damn, I want this damn coaching search to end already. You know what I mean? Whatever that means. I just want somebody definite to be named. And I feel for these guys that are playing this year, and I still watch and support the team and root for them, and I want them to win every game. But it still is a little bit like, well, damn, we're in an in-between zone as fans, because we're still going to root for the team next year. You know what I mean? We'll still be there.
Yeah.
So we got that to worry about.
And listen, has the time come out for the Illinois game yet?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Because if it's a night game, you're going.
Yeah, if it's a night game, I'm going. Or if it's an afternoon game, either one.
Or if an afternoon. Yeah, just not that morning. But yeah, no, it's an important game for, the psyche of the team. Take the time. Keep building. Keep building, because the team is getting better. This wasn't a loss against Indiana or Rutgers. We pulled those out. This was a 1-score loss to a good Purdue team.
That might win the West.
That might win the West and should beat Penn State.
And might go ahead and print themselves a ticket to get completely destroyed by Ohio State in front of the whole nation. So
and they deserve it. They deserve that honor. Honestly, they deserve it.
That's the status of the Big Ten. I mean, look, the West, and I'm just gonna be honest. In a couple weeks, we're gonna get an announcement. The announcement is going to be about Big Ten scheduling, and they're going to announce the schedule basically for the next year, which is going to be the last year without USC and UCLA. And I think they're going to announce the end of divisions in the Big Ten. So as we sit here and talk about the Big Ten West, it's sort of feels like a moot point in certain ways, but here's what you got to do if you're in the Big Ten West as things go going forward. The Big Ten West is a good notch, a huge notch under the Big Ten East. The top 3 teams in the Big Ten are in the Big Ten East. You got Michigan, or Ohio State at the very top. Then you got Michigan and Penn State. So the Big Ten West has got to figure itself out, because those teams can't even beat each other right now. And one of them has to emerge as the dominant force. One or two of them, with Wisconsin, Nebraska, Minnesota, whoever, has to emerge as a dominant force in college football, to the point where they're not measuring themselves against the Big Ten West every year anymore. They're measuring themselves against Ohio State and against Alabama and against Clemson and against teams like that, so that the Big Ten West can start to look at themselves as if it's elite. Like I said, end of this month, we might be talking about how this is a completely moot point, because the divisions are gone. But I still do think that right now the Big Ten West needs an elite team. They don't have it. There's not one there. There's schools that have the potential to become an elite team, but it's frustrating. Year in and year out, nobody really emerges. This year, I thought it might have been PJ Fleck and the boys. They were looking pretty good early on, but
they were. But college football is one of those things. College football is one of those things that, like, you could look like a contender first couple of weeks, and as the season goes on, your team exposes itself to what it really is. I mean, and I think that's a good transition into some other games from Saturday. It was a wild Saturday for college football, and let's start with Alabama, Tennessee, because, dude, Heupel has those guys playing really well. He just does. I mean, it was a very evenly matched game. Like, he had them up by like 17 points at one point, and then Alabama came back. But, dude, I think they're good.
Yep. I think they're good too. Heupel was over there masterminding it, stroking the whiskers on his double chinny chin, and and no, I'm happy for them because it seemed like this whole time when both of our programs were down, everybody would always mention Tennessee and Nebraska in the same light. So there's a piece of you as a Nebraska fan that's got to be happy for Tennessee, and I am.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit like salty that like, oh my God, former Big 12 quarterback, former UCF head coach. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff. It's like, dude, his resume is Scott Frost's resume. That's why it's so frustrating. You know what I mean? Like his resume is Scott Frost's resume. It's like, look at them. They're pretty much the same resume. It's a little bit like, well, damn.
Yeah. I think you said a couple of weeks ago, well, damn, we hired the wrong former UCF coach.
And I was pretty much right.
Pretty much right.
They just beat Bama.
Yeah, no, and that game was crazy because they were. I turned off the game honestly because they were driving down to try to score it up after they just thrown a pick six, and then they like threw it was like fourth and whatever. He threw a Hail Mary ball basically, and that was picked off. And I didn't even see what happened after that. And then I turned back on the game. I was like, what? Oh wait, so.
Yeah, I had it going on in the background while I was doing some chores. I just kept looking up when teams were scoring, and then I had on the ending as the Nebraska game was starting. I had it on my laptop, and I saw the final field goal, which looked like it shouldn't have gone in, but then it went in.
No, it was going like a helicopter.
Yeah, crazy, and that looked like one of the best college football environments I've ever seen, to be honest. It was incredible, and I expected it to be. I remember hearing preseason going into this year where I think it was Josh Pate talking about it, where he was like, if Tennessee is 5-0 going into week 6, Neyland Stadium playing Alabama, he goes, expect the greatest college football environment you've ever seen. He goes, I don't know if they're going to win or lose, but expect the best college football environment you've ever seen. And he was right about that. I tuned in. I mean, I was interested in the game, no doubt about it, but I tuned in just to see what Neyland was like. You know what I mean? Because it's not been there. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, could you imagine if Nebraska was a top 10 team right now playing Michigan at home on national TV? Could you imagine what Memorial Stadium would be like?
No, it's already a great environment, and like as long as we're still in the game, like it's already a great environment. And if we're actually playing for that national like title, we haven't been there in a very long time. But you're right. It was really great to see the let's go to the I guess
hang on. We're still in Tennessee real quick. I want to check out Tennessee's remaining schedule. Who do they play? See football schedule. Okay. So their next, they got that classic. I hate it when my technology doesn't work out for me in moments like this. So they got that classic SEC softball mid-October game next against Tennessee Martin.
So they'll lose that one.
Then they play Mark Stoops, Will Levis, and Kentucky. And that'll be Saturday, October 29th. That'll be a good game. That's at Neyland. That's at Tennessee. And then they play Georgia at Georgia.
Ooh.
Yeah, they play Georgia at Georgia. So we'll see. The SEC is really interesting this year, actually, because Alabama just lost, but they will probably win the rest of their games. They play Ole Miss. They play Mississippi State, which is a ranked team, and they play Ole Miss. Those are hardest 2 games left. So theoretically, if Tennessee loses, but they have the overhead, but they're in Georgia's division. So if Georgia has the head-to-head on Tennessee, you could have 3. What I'm trying to say is you could have 3 SEC teams at the end of the year that are all 3 with 1 loss. Like, because Georgia could get to the SEC championship game, play Bama, and then lose to Bama. You know what I mean? So you can have 3 SEC teams at the end of the year, all with 1 loss, all probably deserving a college football playoff spot. And right now, Tennessee's in the driver's seat. If they can beat Georgia, they're the team, which is I'd love to see it.
I would too.
People want to say SEC bias. And you know what? Like, SEC is really good. And I think anti-SEC people and SEC people could all agree on it's probably not necessarily just SEC bias as much as it is Alabama bias. I mean, there's just it's been Alabama for so long.
I mean, yeah, and I mean they lost, and there are still undefeated teams that are ranked lower than them.
Yeah.
You know,
crazy, but deservingly so. Like, Alabama's good; they're a really good team. They get penalized a lot. That is their biggest problem, is they get penalized a lot. But when they're fully healthy and they play clean football, they could beat anybody in America, no doubt about it. Tennessee, man, I'm trying to say is I'm not an SEC guy, but I'd still enjoy a year where Tennessee runs the table, watching Tennessee do it and get it done. That'd be cool.
Yeah. And I was trying to explain this to Megan yesterday, like how long it's been since Tennessee has been really good. Last time Tennessee was really, really good, Nebraska was really, really good. So it's been just as long for them. So a lot of hurting fan bases, a lot of really bad hires, just trying to figure it out. And, looks like they have a team.
So they figured it out.
They figured it out.
At it. You got to. It's also the other thing is they've just been in the news cycle seemingly like every year. It seems like people are talking about Tennessee and not in a positive light. You know, things like Tennessee botching coaching search. You know what I mean? Stuff like that, and the whole Lane Kiffin situation and all that stuff. And that seems like forever ago, but all of it's led up to this moment where they finally beat their rival. That's the other thing, is like, no, people had struggled to grasp the perspective that Tennessee and Alabama are heated rivals. I mean, it's a rivalry game, you know. And like, could you imagine being the rival of Alabama and like having them dunk on you for 20 years? And finally, it was really cool. I enjoyed watching it. What was the other game you want to mention?
Well, I just quickly wanted to mention TCU knocking off Oklahoma State.
That was a crazy game.
That was a great game.
That was a crazy game.
That was a great game. And
I didn't watch it, but I know it was a crazy game because I looked at the game and I was like, oh, Oklahoma's killing them. And then I looked back at the game and I was like, oh, TCU won.
Then USC lost.
To Utah.
In another crazy game. And then I really wanted to point out, because we've talked about their head coach so much, is Oklahoma, Kansas. And that team fought so hard. They really did. And watching the game, it was just Oklahoma had better athletes. That was just what it came down to.
And they came to play, man. They came to play.
They did. They looked like they were like, okay, we've gone on a 3-game losing skid now. We just got shut out by our biggest rival.
Yes. We're not losing to Kansas. I don't care what they're ranked.
That's what it felt like. That is definitely what it felt like. But it was still a good game. It wasn't like they got trounced.
No.
It was good to see that, like, it was good to see that Kansas could still show up after a loss, because the good teams can still perform and show up and compete. The teams that went on those first couple of games and just had those 4-game win streaks and all that, they're the ones that like have a loss and then crumble and then lose the rest of the season. And we'll see what Kansas does, but it was good to see them like fight. And that's a marker of a good coach. Good coach.
Most definitely. So. And they had a backup quarterback. They were on the road. And so you got to give it out to Lance again. And nothing that he's had 2 losses in a row. And to me, nothing that's happened so far has made him has given him sort of a Matt Campbell moment so far this year, where it's like, no, please no. You know what I mean? I still would be excited of the prospect of Leipold at this point. and like I've said, there's a number of coaches in this cycle that I would be excited with, I think it's for Nebraska. I think it's a good coaching carousel right now. But yeah, Leipold's crew, they fought. What was the other game I wanted to mention? Oh yeah, dude. I kind of played side eye until the Nebraska game with a lot of these games. So I was like paying attention to them, but not really, and the Illinois and Minnesota game, I almost bet on the money line for Illinois because like it was so ridiculous to me. Minnesota was a 7.5 point favorite going into the game, and they were playing at Champaign. Yeah, and like Illinois looks like a completely different team this year. Yeah, and I was like, why is it 7.5? I was like, at the very least, Illinois will cover that spread. Well, not only did they cover the spread, they won pretty convincingly. And well, last I checked, it was like late in the fourth quarter, and it was like 27-19. I'll check the actual score now that it's the next day. Yeah. Illinois versus. Okay, it was 26-14. So I was about right. Yeah. Yeah. So Illinois is going to be our next game. I'm going to be there as long as it's not an 11 a.m. game, and it's going to be a tough game. It's a heavy rushing attack team. Chase Brown gets a lot of carries every game, but he also his average is high too. So like he's a good running back. Look, we play Chase Brown, followed by Mo Ibrahim, followed by Blake Corum. Oh my gosh. We got to get our rush defense figured out. And if we don't have Reimer and Heinrich, I don't know what's going on. Heinrich looked like he's got a season-ending injury. I don't know if
he was holding his knee.
Yeah, Heinrich looked like he got a season-ending injury. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but it seemed like he got a season-ending injury. Reimer, it seemed like he was iffy for last night. So I'm hoping that the bye week gives him a little bit of time and makes him able to go against Illinois because we need Reimer. Oh, my God, we need Reimer against a rushing attack team.
Yeah.
That's the only way we're going to have a chance. To be honest, in my opinion, is if we have at least one of our veteran guys back in that linebacker position. The other guys didn't play bad, but it's just hard to play as a unit whenever you don't. I mean, there's just a trust.
And when you're still like when you're putting guys in and out, you don't have the cohesion and you don't have like you said, the trust. So it is hard. Again, we have a bye week now, so some of those guys that were fringe guys can probably get healed up, be able to come back.
Well, I remember my senior year of high school, we got real close as a defensive unit, and it was really fun to play with those dudes late in the season. And my linebacker that one of my linebackers who I played with, he was so good, and it was nice because I always had support. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Anytime I'm like gonna make the tackle, oh no, I'm about to release him. Oh no. The linebacker comes in and he makes the tackle. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then we both made the tackle, and everyone's happy, Yeah. But then the very last game of the year going into playoffs, he got hurt, broke his ankle. Mm-hmm. And playoff game, it was just so disheartening because I was almost making plays left and right. You know what I mean? But I had no support. So and that's the effect that type of thing has. So we need everybody healthy. Definitely need everybody
we do.
healthy.
And we'll see. We'll see what comes out in the next couple of days. Hopefully nothing big, nothing major. Hopefully that we can get those guys back. We'll see. We'll see. Anything else in wrapping up?
Just to subscribe and like, and to follow us on Twitter at
I think he's having a stroke. For those that aren't watching, and
to follow us on Twitter at Cornhusker Corner, at Husker Corner. Yes.
Yeah, and also Instagram.
Yes.
Cornhusker Corner. But I think that's going to be it for us today on the Cornhusker Corner. Always remember that there's a place like the News Podcast.